Hello there, I'm the Gaming Fan, and today I wanted to make a video that I actually planned on making a couple months ago, but just kinda forgot about it, and then my sibling reminded me. Thank you. I wanted to go over 3 games that I never hear discussed, I've never really seen anyone talk about it, and yet, in my opinion, were very great games. I wanted to go over 3 hidden gems in gaming. Now there are games that I would consider gems, although maybe they just didn't sell well, but they were well known. So, that's not exactly what I'm talking about today. Like, I consider Alien Isolation to be one of those games. But in this video, I'm going over games that I've never heard even discussed by anyone. I've never heard them even mention these games' existence. And yet, in my opinion, they are still great games. That's the type of game I'm going to go over in this video today. And they're all from, like, several console generations ago, like the GameCube, DS era type of thing. So not super old, but old enough to be a big part of my childhood. Yes, I did go back and play all these games to make sure they are still gem-worthy, and although I'm still in the middle of playing one, I'd say they're probably all worth putting into this video. So let's get started with number 3. Number 3 would be SpiderMan the video game. This game was released for the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and I think the Xbox, not 100% sure on that one. Now this wasn't open world like most Spider-Man games are expected to be nowadays, but the levels were very diverse, enough to where I really didn't care how open they were. And despite their linearity, they did feel kinda open. They felt like you had options, although some didn't. Some were very strictly linear, like the ones where you have to chase down Shocker. They weren't too, open. They were pretty linear. Go down path, beat bad guys up. But there were a lot of city levels, and the biggest part is that there were a lot of secrets within those levels. I still, like, years later, have not found all the secrets in this game. I don't think. And one of them took me forever. I finally gave in and looked it up. It was ridiculous. Now, in some ways, not in every way, but in some ways, I kind of like the combat in this game a little better than Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2's combat kind of got old really quickly. Did anyone else realize that after replaying that game? Like, it sort of felt samey after a while. I do like the dodge mechanic in Spider-Man 2. I wish that was here, but your hits in this game feel more impactful than in the second game. I don't know. There's also still a big diversity in combos, and you can find moves scattered around the maps. And like I said earlier, there's a big level diversity. Some missions are stealth, some are exclusively boss fights, and they may all be linear, but they all have their own thing. There's a good amount of enemy variety. You've got robots, you've got people. The boss fights are interesting, they have their own thing. Green Goblin will absolutely wreck your face, and it may or may not require some spam cheese, but that's okay. You don't get to fight him too often anyways. What I like about this game is also that they didn't just stick strictly with the movie. Yeah, they did, because Green Goblin's still the main villain at the end of the day. But they didn't just go off that, because you've still got Vulture, you've got Shocker, you've got Scorpion even. I completely forgot about Scorpion when I was replaying the game. And he's actually probably one of the most fun boss fights in the game, because he's challenging, but he's not unfair like Green Goblin. So you don't have to just spam cheese, but you can if you want to. And I just thought the original Spider-Man game was a great game, and it's kind of a shame nobody talked about it. My favorite aspect is probably the stealth missions and the secrets. I love finding secrets, I always have. And I do love stealth, it's one of my favorite genres in gaming. So that's probably what stood out to me the most when I was playing Spider-Man. And one more huge thing is the absolute replayability of the Green Goblin. If you beat the game on a certain difficulty and get enough points, you unlock the ability to play as the Green Goblin. Completely different playstyle, completely different everything. The story changes a little bit, not that much. You're playing as Harry Osborn in the Green Goblin suit. You can throw the pumpkin bombs, it changes everything. And that's what I like about old games. They tried harder, because they wanted to stand out. I loved the games that did that. I've been rambling on about this game long enough. Let's get to number 2. Either way, Spider-Man, great game in my opinion. Number 2, Tak 2, The Staff of Dreams. I'd say this game has a bit of a difficulty problem, but other than that, I think it's a great game. Same thing with Spider-Man 1 with all the level diversity. Although there's not too much of a gameplay diversity, there are still interesting fights in the game. And some parts can be a little more difficult than others, but for the most part the game's combat is pretty easy. It's the parkour you really gotta watch out for. But none of the parkour is unfair or anything, it's just, be quick about things. There is a variety in the combat, but you don't really need to use the variety, except for like maybe a few times in the whole game. Which is really a shame, but I still love the game's combat regardless. And the levels are just beautiful. I love this art style that the game is working with. All the landscapes and the backdrops, it's just the whole thing. And the areas you go to sometimes, you got the dream world, you got like normal forest areas, then you got like these volcanoes, you got this ice place, you've got There's just a huge variety in layout and level design and backdrops and locations. It's just, I love it. I love the whole thing. Tak 2 is always going to stick in my brain. Now, as for Tak 1, I don't remember a lot about it, and I did try to replay it, but the Dolphin emulator didn't render the cutscenes correctly, so I didn't want to keep playing it, as I feared my experience would be slightly ruined. But I'm sure I could possibly fix that at some point, or they'll fix it for me. Who knows? I also love the characters in Tak 2 a lot. Specifically the Jujus that you summon with little tikis that you found around the map.
Maybe I should find another Juju.
No, wait! I'm so sorry. He has no brain. That's why I had to take over.
I like those a lot. I do like later in the game how you can transform into animals, and it changes the parkour up a little bit. I like the flying squirrel, I like the frog. Although that level was not one of my favorites, but I do remember Tak 3's existence, but my memory doesn't do that game a lot of favors. So I didn't really go back and replay it. Oh, and Dinky Games. I completely forgot about Dinky Games. A co-op or solo experience where you can play tons of mini games. And if you play through the single player and find tons of these secret formulas or potions, you can collect ingredients, fill in those potions, unlock new modes for you and a friend to play on. And those are a lot of fun. I really love the sandboarding and the snowboarding. You don't have to unlock them, but they are easily the best in the whole game. I love them. I want to play more of them just talking about it. I don't know why, they're so fun. They're so fun. Anyways, Tak 2 is a whole lot of fun. I love the game. Always have, and it'll always be in my memory. But no one, and this is especially true for this game, because I'm sure people knew about the SpiderMan game. They just didn't play it. But no one in my entire life has even uttered the word Tak. Despite the fact that Tak got a TV show, he was in several of the Nickelodeon crossover games, like Attack of the Toybots or Globs of Doom. He was in those games. He had 3 games by himself. You know, no one has ever heard of Tak. And I have no idea why. Like, yeah, maybe the games aren't masterpieces, but like, still, they were good games. I think. I'm still the third one. Haven't played it in a long time. But still, it really annoys me when people don't hear of Tak. But anyways, on to the last one. Number 1. I don't know why I went backwards in order since this is not a top 3, this is just 3, but regardless, I figured this one would be the most surprising, so I decided to go with this one. Number 1, Spectrobes. Now, a quick disclaimer, there is a Wii game. I've never played it, have not heard anything about it, but it does exist. I might go try to find a ROM for it, because I really want to play it now. And also, there is a sequel to this game on the DS, and I have beaten it, but I don't remember anything about it, like, at all. I don't remember a single thing about it. But I actually remember playing the first one more, despite the fact that I played the second one. So, I do remember that, and that's why I'm putting the first one on the list, and I revisited that game instead of the second one. So, the second one is called Beyond the Portals, but for this game, it has a bit of a Pokemon-esque system to it. You collect monsters, you battle them, you level them up a little bit to make them better in battles. There's a bit of an element thing here. Not really, though, it's just like 3 things. I forgot what they called them, though. It's basically red, green, and blue. But what I like about this is you don't go out and catch these monsters, you mine for their fossils. And then you have to awaken them yourself. And in terms of battles, it's not turn-based, it is in real time. Now the enemy AI may not be the best, and the battles can get kind of easy, but I was doing a battle, and an enemy got a lucky hit on me, and it did over half my health in a single hit. So, yeah, the enemies may not be that smart in terms of when to attack, but don't get hit by them. They will take you down. You can buy better armor and stuff later, which I do like. Your main person can attack with these Spectrobes, so instead of Pokemon, they're Spectrobes. And at first your weapons are not very effective, but you can get money and unlock better upgrades. And the enemy variety is pretty strong in this game too. You may run into some of the same ones at first, but there's tons of boss fights throughout the story. The story itself is actually really good in my opinion. Unique characters. You know, the story, the actual plot itself may not be super unique, like, oh, this race of creatures is trying to devour the galaxy, don't let them do it. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. But I like the way it was executed. And there's also, you might have noticed, a recurring theme by now. Lots of level variety. I'll admit that not all the level variety is good level variety, in my opinion. Some of the areas are just kind of boring to walk around. Some aren't. But I've always loved the first planet. I've already forgotten what it's called, even though I just played it like the other day. But oh, I forgot. Oh well. Either way, it's a green planet, grassy, nice mountaintop. And although I haven't gotten too far in the story yet, I do remember the story being pretty good. Now, as for the difficulty, that might be the only negative here. But I haven't actually gotten to a boss fight yet, and I remember having a problem with the boss fights as a kid. So, assuming you can't just go in and spam a button to take them down, I'm assuming the boss fights will give me a problem, or that I'll at least be close to losing. I'll try them though, because I am going to make a revisiting video for each of these games if you want to see more about it. Although, admittedly, I don't get into like even half the game on TAC. TAC's a pretty long game though. TAC is a pretty long game. There are things about all three of these games that I still didn't even mention. Like the enemy variety in TAC, the questionable controls on SpiderMan, although I am playing on an emulator, and I remember them being fine as a kid. And then on Spectrobes, you've got the lack of direction. But honestly, all these games are gems to me. They always have been, they always will be. And if you want to play them for yourself, download an emulator, and in the link in the description, there will be a link to play these games. As a matter of fact, actually, I might just save that for the revisiting videos. Never mind, there's no link in the description. I'll put that on the revisiting videos. You can go check those out, and then I'll put the links in the description. So if you want to play them for yourself, feel free to do it. Some people will say it might be illegal, but considering you can't buy these games from the company anymore, I'd say it's fair game. So that's going to do it for me. Be sure to tune in next time when we revisit all these games and relive our childhood. Or at least my childhood. Yeet!